The great hall of the Galactic Council stretched out like a crystal cave. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy filled the massive space. Some floated in energy bubbles. Others stood on multiple legs or slithered across the smooth floor. The air hummed with different languages being translated by machines that hung from the ceiling like metal spiders. Ambassador He-Jin walked slowly down the center path. Her black diplomatic uniform stood out against the colorful robes and natural coverings of the alien delegates. She carried a simple datapad in her hands. On it were the details of humanity's request to join the Galactic Council as a full member. Behind her walked two other humans. Commander Jin Ho wore his military dress uniform, medals shining on his chest. Dr. Yu Na carried scientific data about human colonies and achievements. All three humans looked calm, but their hearts beat fast. This was the most important day in human history. The three most powerful empires in the galaxy sat on raised platforms at the front of the hall. The Veltar hegemony controlled over 3,000 star systems. Their crystalline bodies caught the light and threw rainbow patterns across the walls. Emperor Velnash sat on a throne made of living crystal that grew and changed shape as he moved. To his left, the insect-like beings of the Zeph Collective buzzed and clicked at each other. Their ships numbered in the millions, and they had been exploring space for over 10,000 years. Hydrone. Zefkala's compound eyes tracked Hyejin's movement with the cold calculation of a predator watching prey. On the right, beings of pure energy flickered in and out of sight. The Korth Dominion had mastered the secrets of space and time itself. Overlord Morithek's energy form pulsed with colors that had no names in human language. When he spoke, reality seemed to bend around his words. He-Jin reached the center of the hall and stopped. She looked up at the three Empire leaders and spoke clearly into her translator device. Honored members of the Galactic Council, I come before you today representing the Terran Confederation. We ask for recognition as a full member of this council and request the rights and protections that come with that membership. Emperor Velnash leaned forward on his crystal throne. When he spoke, his voice sounded like breaking glass. Human, your species controls only 23 worlds. We have seen your ships. They are made of simple metal and use crude fusion drives. Why should beings who have mastered the stars care about your small collection of planets? High drone. Zefkala's wings buzzed with what might have been laughter. The collective has observed human space for 50 of your years. Your technology is primitive, your ships are slow, your weapons are weak. You have nothing to offer this council. Overlord. Morthek's energy form brightened and dimmed as he spoke. Perhaps the humans do not understand the difference between a true galactic empire and a small group of colonies playing at being important. Return to your corner of space, little mammals. Grow for another 1,000 years, and then perhaps we will listen to your requests. Hyejin felt anger rise in her chest, but she kept her face calm. She had expected this treatment. The intelligence reports had warned her that the three empires saw humanity as nothing more than slightly advanced animals. We understand that our request may seem premature to your great civilizations, she said. However, humanity has achievements that we believe would benefit the galactic community. Our medical technology has eliminated most diseases. Our engineering corps has built stable colonies on worlds that others thought impossible to settle. Our explorers have charted new hyperspace routes that could cut travel time between sectors by 30%. Emperor Velnash's crystal body rang like a struck bell as he stood up. Medical technology? Child, the Veltar have been curing diseases since before your son was born. Engineering? We grow our cities from living crystal that heals itself when damaged. Navigation? The collective has mapped every star in this galaxy and 3 others. The Emperor walked to the edge of his platform and looked down at Hyejin. His crystalline face showed no emotion, but his voice carried pure contempt. You humans think that because you have learned to light fires in space, you deserve to sit at the table with gods. We have seen 1,000 species like yours. Most destroy themselves before they ever leave their birth systems. The few that survive usually become useful servants to the greater empires. Hydrone Zefkala added her buzzing voice to the Emperor's words. Perhaps humanity could serve as workers for the collective. Your short lives would be well spent maintaining our outer colonies. It would be more purpose than your species has ever known. Overlord Morthek's energy form pulsed with what seemed like amusement. Or the Dominion could use human worlds as testing grounds for our new reality-shaping experiments. The loss of a few primitive planets would be acceptable for the advancement of true science. Hyejin's hands tightened on her datapad, but she still did not let her anger show. Commander Jinho stepped forward slightly, his own face hard with controlled rage. Dr. Yuna simply stared at the alien leaders with the cold calculation of a scientist studying dangerous specimens. "We do not seek to become servants or test subjects," Hyejin said. "We seek partnership and mutual respect among the stars." Emperor Velnash laughed, and the sound was like a mountain of glass breaking apart. "Respect? What has humanity done to earn respect? Have you conquered a galactic arm? Have you bent the laws of physics to your will? Have you created life itself in your laboratories?" "No," said Hydrone Zefkala. "You have built a few metal boxes and filled them with air so you can breathe while traveling between your tiny worlds. This is what children do when they first learn to build toys." Overlord Morthek's voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Perhaps if the humans wish to be taken seriously by real civilizations, they should prove their worth. Show us that. Your species is more than another group of primitives who stumbled into space by accident." Emperor Velnash sat back down on his crystal throne. A cruel smile spread across his angular face. "Yes, that is a fine idea. Humans are always talking about how tough and determined they are. Every species says the same thing when they first discover faster-than-light travel. They all think they are special." He gestured toward Commander Jinho. "I see your military representative there, human ambassador. Perhaps he could tell us about the mighty human war machine. Do your people actually believe their crude metal ships could stand against vessels that bend light itself?" Hydrone Zefkala's wings buzzed faster. "The collective has observed human military exercises. Your weapons are chemically propelled projectiles and simple energy beams. Our shields would not even notice such attacks. The Dominion has fought wars across dimensions," Overlord Morthek added. "We have destroyed stars to deny them to our enemies and collapsed entire solar systems into pocket universes. What could metal boxes filled with mammals possibly do against such power?" Emperor Velnash leaned forward again. His crystal eyes caught the light and threw it back like lasers. "Here is my suggestion, little human ambassador. If your species wishes to be treated as equals by the great empires, prove that you are more than harmless primitives. Show us that human ships can do more than carry supplies between colonies." "You want a military demonstration?" Hyejin asked, quietly. "I want to be entertained," the Emperor replied. "The Veltar hegemony will be conducting naval exercises in the Kepler 442 system in 3 standard months. Perhaps one of your toy ships could join us? It would be amusing to see how long it lasts against real warships." Hydrone Zefkala clicked her mandibles in what passed for laughter among her species. "Yes, let the humans bring their best ship. The collective would enjoy studying the wreckage afterward. It might provide useful data about primitive construction techniques." Overlord Morthek's energy form brightened. "The Dominion supports this idea. Observing the destruction of a human vessel would provide interesting information about how quickly metal fails when exposed to true weapons technology." Hyejin looked around the Great Hall. Thousands of alien beings stared at her with expressions ranging from amusement to boredom to outright hostility. None of them believed humanity deserved a place among the stars. They saw humans as nothing, more than curious animals who had learned to use fire. She thought about the colonies scattered across human space. Families living on worlds where the air had to be manufactured and the ground was hostile to Earth life. Scientists working in laboratories built into asteroids, pushing the boundaries of human knowledge. Engineers constructing massive orbital habitats that housed millions of people in safety and comfort. All of it dismissed as primitive toys by beings who thought themselves gods. Hyejin straightened her shoulders and looked directly at Emperor Velnash. Her voice carried clearly through the vast hall when she spoke. "Very well. The Terran Confederation accepts your invitation. We will send one of our ships to your naval exercise. I hope you find the demonstration educational." Emperor Velnash's crystal face showed surprise for just a moment. Then the cruel smile returned. Excellent. I look forward to seeing what passes for military might among your people. Try not to disappoint us too badly, little human. High drone Zefkala's buzzing increased in pitch. The collective will record the entire encounter for our archives. It will serve as a useful XO. The Kepler 442 system had been chosen for the Veltar naval exercises because it was perfect for showing off. 3 gas giants orbited the main star in a complex dance that created beautiful light patterns across space. The binary companion star provided extra illumination that made crystalline ships sparkle like jewels against the cosmic background. Fleet Commander Velkorin stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Crystal Throne, and watched his fleet arrange itself in perfect formations. 200 of the finest ships in the Veltar hegemony spread out across millions of kilometers of space. Each vessel was a work of art, grown from living crystal matrices that could repair themselves and adapt to different combat situations. The Crystal Throne itself was the pride of the Veltar Navy. At over 3 kilometers long, it was shaped like a massive diamond that caught starlight and focused it into devastating weapon beams. Its shields could bend light around the ship, making it nearly invisible to enemy sensors. Its armor was alive, growing thicker in damaged areas and healing minor wounds in minutes. "Status report on the fleet formations," Velkorin commanded. His voice rang through the crystal corridors of the ship like a bell. Tactical Officer Velnara manipulated controls that looked more like musical instruments than military equipment. "All vessels are in position, Commander. Battle Group Alpha is arranged in the traditional triangle of power formation. Battle Group Beta has formed the spiral of infinity pattern. Battle Group Gamma maintains the wall of light defensive structure." Velkorin nodded with satisfaction. Each formation was perfect, designed over thousands of years of Veltar military tradition. They demonstrated the mathematical precision and artistic beauty that made Veltar naval doctrine the envy of lesser species. Communications. Broadcast. To the fleet. All ships are to begin the Harmony of War demonstration in 10 minutes. I want our movements to be flawless when the other empires observe us. Communications Officer Velthera touched crystalline nodes that grew from her control. "Station. Message transmitted, Commander. All ship captains acknowledge and confirm readiness." Through the massive transparent dome that formed the front of the Crystal Throne's bridge, Velkorin could see other ships beginning their movements. Crystalline. Vessels the size of cities moved with impossible grace, their formations flowing like liquid light across space. Weapons that could crack planets charged with energy that made the local stars look dim. This was not just a military exercise. It was art in motion, a demonstration of why the Veltar hegemony had ruled this sector of the galaxy for over 5,000 years. "Commander," Velnara called out, her voice showing the first hint of confusion. "Long-range sensors are detecting an approaching vessel. Single ship, unknown configuration. It appears to be on an intercept course." Velkorin turned from watching his fleet to look at the tactical display. A single dot moved through space toward them, still too far away to identify clearly. "Classification? Unknown, sir. The ship's design does not match any in our databases. Mass readings are unusual. The vessel appears to be much denser than normal ship construction would suggest. Could it be a Zeph Collective scout vessel? Or perhaps a Korth Dominion probe?" Velnara's crystal fingers danced over her instruments. "Negative, Commander. Energy signatures are completely different from known Zeph or Korth technology. The ship appears to use primitive fusion drives for propulsion, but the power output is much higher than expected." Fleet Commander Velkorin felt a flutter of excitement in his crystalline chest. Could this be the human ship that Emperor Velnash had mentioned? The amusing little demonstration that the primitive mammals thought would impress the great empires. "Time to intercept." "Approximately 40 minutes at current speed, Commander." "Excellent. Signal the fleet to continue exercises as planned. When our mysterious visitor arrives, we will give them a proper welcome." Across the system, on hidden observation vessels, representatives of other galactic powers watched the approaching confrontation with great interest. The Zeph Collective had positioned 3 scout ships at the edge of the system, their insect crews buzzing with anticipation. High drone Zephmara commanded the lead scout vessel. Her compound eyes tracked both the Veltar fleet and the approaching, unknown ship. This should provide useful intelligence about both Veltar capabilities and human limitations, she clicked to her subordinates. Record everything. The collective will want complete data on whatever weapons the Veltar used to destroy the human vessel. In a different part of the system, a Korth Dominion observation post flickered in and out of normal space. Overlord Morvash had bent reality around his vessel, making it exist in several dimensions at once. From his position outside normal spacetime, he could observe everything without being detected. The energy patterns are fascinating, he pulsed to his crew. The human ship radiates power signatures that our models cannot fully explain. Either their technology is more advanced than intelligence reports suggested, or they are using principles that we have not encountered before. Back on the crystal throne, the unknown vessel had grown large enough to appear on visual sensors. What the Veltar saw made them pause in confusion. The human ship was unlike anything they had ever encountered. Where Veltar vessels curved and flowed like living things, this newcomer was all harsh angles and brutal efficiency. Its hull was dark metal covered with what looked like armor plates. Gun ports lined its sides like the scales of some mechanical predator. Strange sensor arrays stuck out from its surface in directions that seemed random but probably served specific purposes. It looks like something built for war, Communications Officer Velthera whispered. All ships look like they are built for war, Velcorin replied, but this one looks like it was built for nothing else. Navigation Officer Velkatan studied the approaching vessel's movement pattern. Commander, the ship is not following standard approach protocols. It should have requested permission to enter the exercise zone and identified itself by now. Instead, it continues on direct intercept course. Perhaps primitive species do not understand proper military courtesy, Velcorin said. Open a communication channel. Let us educate our visitors about how civilized beings conduct themselves in the presence of their superiors. The communication channel crackled to life, and a voice spoke in clear galactic standard. The voice was female, calm, and carried an undertone that made Velcorin's crystal skin crawl. It was the voice of someone who was not impressed by what they saw. Attention, Veltar forces. This is Captain So Young of the Terran Confederation ship Indomitable. By order of Fleet Admiral Teho and at the invitation of Emperor Velnash, you are hereby challenged to single combat. Any one of your vessels against mine. The bridge of the Crystal Throne fell completely silent. 200 Veltar officers stared at their instruments as if the machines had suddenly started speaking in impossible languages. Did that primitive just challenge our entire fleet? Velnara asked in a voice barely above a whisper. Single combat, Velcorin repeated slowly. One of our ships against theirs. He began to laugh, and the sound rang through the crystal corridors of his flagship like breaking glass. How wonderfully amusing. The little mammals think their crude metal box can stand against vessels that have conquered half the galaxy. He activated the fleet communication system. All ships maintain current positions. The humans have provided us with unexpected entertainment. We are about to demonstrate why primitive species should show proper respect to their betters. The laughter that came back from 200 Veltar ships created a harmony that could be heard across the solar system. Crystal beings throughout the fleet shared the joke of a single primitive vessel, thinking it could challenge the might of the hegemony. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Captain So Young listened to the alien laughter with the patience of someone who had expected exactly this reaction. Her bridge crew remained focused on their stations, running final system checks and preparing for combat. Navigation Officer Jiwoo confirmed their position relative to the enemy fleet. Captain, we are now within optimal firing range. Enemy formations show typical Imperial overconfidence. They have not even raised defensive shields. Weapons Officer Hyunwoo reported from his station. All weapon systems are online and ready. Railguns are loaded with tungsten penetrator rounds. Plasma cannons are charged to full power. Gravitational torpedoes are armed and targeted. Chief. Engineer Mi Young's voice came from the engine room through the intercom. All systems running at peak efficiency, Captain. Power output is steady at optimal levels. Defensive screens are ready to deploy on your command. Communications Officer. Dongmin monitored the enemy channels. Captain, the Veltar flagship is hailing us. They are offering us the chance to surrender before they demonstrate their superior firepower. Captain So Young's face showed no expression as she listened to the offer. Her dark eyes studied the tactical display showing 200 enemy ships, arranged in perfect formations. Beautiful ships, she admitted to herself. Artistic ships. Ships built by a civilization that viewed war as another form of artistic expression. They were about to learn the difference between art and engineering. No, response to their offer, she said quietly. Tactical, do we have a clear targeting solution on their flagship? The news of the Crystal Throne's destruction spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Within hours, every major intelligence service, military command, and diplomatic corps had received detailed sensor recordings of the impossible battle in the Kepler 442 system. On Zeph Prime, the buzzing homeworld of the collective, military analysts worked frantically to understand what they had witnessed. High drone Zeph Korvac stood before a massive holographic display showing the human ship's attack in slow motion, breaking down every second of the engagement. The sequence is clear, she buzzed to the assembled military council. The Veltar flagship fired first using their Crystal Lance system, maximum power setting. The energy output was sufficient to destroy a small moon. The hologram showed the brilliant beams of crystallized energy striking the human ship and simply disappearing into its defensive screens. The human vessel absorbed this attack without any visible damage. Their defensive systems did not even fluctuate. This suggests technology far beyond our current understanding of shield mechanics. High drone Zeph Mara, who had observed the battle firsthand, added her analysis. The return fire was unlike anything in our databases, multiple weapon systems firing simultaneously. The projectile weapons achieved velocities we thought impossible for solid matter. The energy weapons operated at temperatures exceeding stellar core levels. Another analyst, High drone Zephvel, manipulated the holographic controls to focus on the gravitational torpedoes. These weapons appear to manipulate space-time itself. The gravitational distortions they created were localized but incredibly powerful. They literally crushed the enemy ship's power core using artificial gravity fields. The chamber fell silent except for the constant buzzing of Zeph thought processes. Finally, Supreme Hive Mind Zephteler spoke, her voice carrying the authority of the entire collective. Analysis conclusion. The humans possess military technology significantly beyond our previous estimates. Recommendation: immediate revision of threat assessment protocols. The Terran Confederation is to be classified as a Class Alpha military power. Similar scenes played out across Korth space. In the reality-bending halls of the Dominion Central Command, energy beings flickered in and out of existence as they processed the implications of what they had observed. Overlord Morket materialized in the center of the command chamber, his energy form pulsing with colors that indicated deep concern. The human weapon systems demonstrate principles that our science has not encountered. They appear to combine multiple physical forces in ways that should not be possible. Strategic Advisor Morthek phased into partial existence beside him. Most troubling is their defensive capability. The Veltar Crystal Lance system has never failed to penetrate enemy shields. The energy patterns we observed suggest the humans use a completely different approach to deflecting incoming attacks. What is your assessment of their overall military capability? Morket asked. Morthek's energy form brightened with uncertainty. Unknown. We observed the destruction of one enemy vessel by one human ship. This provides insufficient data to evaluate their full potential. However, the efficiency of their attack suggests extensive combat experience. On the crystal homeworld of the Veltar hegemony, Emperor Vel Nash stood in his palace's war room staring at the tactical recordings with growing rage. The destruction of the Crystal Throne was not just a military defeat. It was a humiliation that struck at the very heart of Veltar superiority. How is this possible? He demanded of his military advisors. The Crystal Throne was invincible. Its shields had never been penetrated. Its armor was living crystal that could repair any damage. Fleet Admiral Veltharan, the highest-ranking military officer in the hegemony, studied the sensor data with professional interest despite his own shock. Your Majesty, the human weapons appear to operate on entirely different principles than those used by known galactic civilizations. Their projectile weapons achieve kinetic energies that our defensive systems were not designed to counter. And their energy weapons? Velnash asked. Temperature and power levels that exceed our most optimistic projections for advanced civilizations. Your Majesty, we must face the possibility that our intelligence estimates of human capability were completely wrong. Emperor Velnash's crystal form rang with harmonics of barely controlled fury. One ship, Admiral. One primitive human ship destroyed the pride of our fleet. How many more ships do they have? How many more weapon systems have they not yet shown? Us? But the most shocking revelation was yet to come. In the depths of the Terran Confederation's intelligence networks, analysts were having conversations that would have terrified the galaxy if they had been intercepted. On Luna Station, orbiting Earth's moon, Chief Engineer Mi Young submitted her after-action report to Terran Naval Command. The report was routine, technical, and absolutely devastating in its implications. Post-engagement analysis of TCS Indomitable performance during Kepler 4R42 demonstration, she dictated to her computer. All systems performed within normal parameters. Defensive screens operated at 37% maximum capacity. Primary, weapon systems utilized 29% of available firepower. No maintenance issues noted. Recommend vessel remain on standard patrol status. Admiral Tejo read the report in his office overlooking the sprawling lunar naval yards. Outside his window, dozens of ships moved through space, vessels that made the Indomitable look small by comparison. He touched a control, and his aide entered the office. Yes, Admiral? Lieutenant Sang-woo, send a message to Captain So-young. Tell her she did excellent work, but next time she should be more careful about showing our full capabilities to potential enemies. Sir, I don't understand. The engagement reports show that Captain So-young completely destroyed the enemy flagship. Admiral, Tejo smiled grimly. Yes, Lieutenant. She destroyed it using less than 30% of her ship's actual firepower. The aliens think they've seen what human military technology can do. They have no idea what they're really dealing with. Across human space, the reaction to the Kepler 442 engagement was very different from the shock and fear spreading through alien civilizations. In military academies, the battle was studied as a textbook example of overwhelming firepower applied, with surgical precision. In engineering centers, designers looked at the weapon performance data and began planning even more effective systems. On the bridge of the Indomitable, now heading back toward human space, Captain So-young reviewed her cruise performance during the engagement. Navigation Officer Ji-woo had maintained perfect positioning throughout the battle. Weapons Officer Hyun-woo had achieved target lock and destruction in record time. Communications Officer Dong-min had monitored all enemy frequencies and provided valuable intelligence, Captain, Ji-woo reported from his station. We're receiving priority communications from Fleet Command. Orders to return to Starbase 7 for debriefing. Acknowledged. Set course for home base, maximum sustainable velocity. As the Indomitable jumped to hyperspace, leaving the Kepler 442 system behind, the hidden observers finally began to understand what they had witnessed. This was not a demonstration of human military capability. It was a warning. On Zeph Prime, High Drone Zeph Korvac presented her final analysis to the collective leadership. The humans did not reveal their full capabilities during this engagement. Detailed analysis of their ship's power systems suggests they were operating at minimal capacity. This was not a desperate battle for survival. It was a controlled demonstration. Supreme hive mind. Zeph Talar's compound eyes reflected the chamber lights as she processed this information. Meaning? Meaning that what we observed was the equivalent of a human adult casually swatting an annoying insect. They were not trying to impress us with their power. They were showing us just enough to make their point. In Korth space, Overlord Morket came to similar conclusions. The energy patterns from their ship indicate massive reserve capacity. The weapons they used represent only a fraction of their available firepower. Their defensive systems showed no stress despite absorbing an attack that should have destroyed any known vessel. Strategic Advisor Morthek pulsed with growing alarm. If this assessment is correct, then the Terran Confederation possesses military technology that could threaten any of the major galactic empires. Not just threaten, Morquette replied. If they choose to use their full capabilities, they could potentially defeat any of us in direct confrontation. But it was on the Veltar homeworld that the most dangerous decisions were being made. Emperor Velnash had spent days reviewing the battle recordings, and his rage had crystallized into something far more deadly: wounded pride. The humans humiliated us, he declared to his assembled military commanders. They destroyed our flagship in full view of the galaxy. Every species now knows that a single human ship defeated the pride of the Veltar fleet. Fleet Admiral Veltheron tried to inject caution into the discussion. Your Majesty, perhaps we should consider diplomatic solutions. The humans have demonstrated capabilities that suggest direct confrontation would be extremely costly. Costly? Velnash's crystal body rang like struck metal. Admiral, do you suggest that the Veltar hegemony, rulers of 3,000 star systems, should bow to a species that controls barely 24 worlds? The Veltar Grand Armada was the largest military force assembled in galactic history. 537 warships spread across a volume of space larger than most solar systems. Each vessel represented centuries of advanced engineering and artistic vision. Together, they carried enough firepower to reduce entire star systems to cosmic dust. Fleet Admiral Veltheron stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the Eternal Glory, and watched his massive fleet prepare for the jump to human space. Around him, his officers worked with the precision that came from thousands of years of military tradition. Crystal beings moved like dancers, their actions flowing together in perfect harmony. Fleet status report, he commanded. Tactical Coordinator Velkessa touched the living crystal controls at her station. All vessels report ready for hyperspace transition, Admiral. Battle Group Alpha maintains the Spear of Light formation. Battle Group Beta holds the shield wall pattern. Battle Group Gamma has formed the Hammer of Justice configuration. Time to target: 18 hours to reach the edge of human space, Admiral. Intelligence indicates their main defensive positions are concentrated around 3 star systems. Fleet. Admiral Veltheron nodded with satisfaction. The humans had made a mistake by humiliating the Veltar Empire. Now they would learn the price of insulting a civilization that had ruled the stars for millennia. But across the galaxy, other powers watched the movement of the Veltar Armada with growing concern. The Zeph Collective had deployed their most advanced spy ships to monitor the approaching confrontation. Hydrone Zephmara transmitted constant updates back to the homeworld. The Veltar fleet is unprecedented in size, she buzzed to her superiors. However, our analysis of human capabilities suggests this may not be sufficient. The destruction of the Crystal Throne demonstrated weapon systems far beyond our previous estimates. On Zeph Prime, military planners worked frantically to understand what they were about to witness. Senior analyst Zeph Korvac had spent weeks studying the Kepler 442 engagement, and her conclusions were disturbing. The human advantage is not technological, she reported to the collective leadership. It is philosophical. Every known galactic civilization has evolved from peaceful species that eventually developed military capability as a defensive measure. We build weapons to protect ourselves and our colonies. Supreme hive mind. Zeftalar's compound eyes focused on the analyst. Continue. Humans appear to be different. Their evolutionary history suggests they developed as persistence hunters, predators, who specialized in tracking and killing prey larger than themselves. When they developed technology, they did not use it primarily for exploration or trade. They used it to become better predators. The revelation sent shockwaves through the collective leadership. You are suggesting that humans are naturally aggressive? No, Supreme Hive Mind. I am suggesting something far more dangerous. Humans are naturally efficient at warfare. Where we see military conflict as a regrettable necessity, they appear to view it as a problem to be solved using the most effective methods available. Similar discussions were taking place throughout Korth. Space. Energy beings flickered in and out of dimensional reality as they tried to comprehend the implications of human military doctrine. Overlord Morquette, materialized in the central command chamber, his energy form pulsing with agitation. Intelligence. Reports from our monitoring stations indicate that human ship construction follows patterns unlike any known civilization. Strategic Advisor Morthek phased into existence beside him. How so? Where other species build multi-purpose vessels that can serve as explorers, cargo haulers, and warships, humans appear to build specialized ship classes. Each type is designed for specific combat roles. Scouts, fighters, cruisers, battleships, all optimized for particular aspects of warfare.
This suggests a level of military planning that exceeds normal defensive requirements. Overlord Morket's form brightened with concern. More disturbing are the intercepted human communications. Their military personnel discuss combat scenarios
with a casual efficiency that suggests extensive practical experience. These are not beings who have developed weapons as a last resort. They are beings who have refined warfare into a science. But the most shocking revelation was yet to come. Deep in human space, intercepted alien communications provided intelligence analysts with a complete picture of how the galaxy viewed humanity. The reports made for fascinating reading. On Earth, in the underground facilities of Terran Strategic, Intelligence Director Park Yoon-seo reviewed analysis reports from across known space. Her office walls displayed star charts showing the positions of all major galactic powers and their current military activities. The pattern is consistent across all three major empires, she reported to Admiral Tejo during their weekly briefing. They fundamentally misunderstand what humans are and how we approach military problems. Admiral Tejo leaned back in his chair and studied the intelligence summaries. Explain. They think we're like them, a peaceful species that developed weapons for defense. They assume our military technology exists to protect our colonies and trade routes. They have no concept of a species that developed military capability as a primary survival tool. She activated a holographic display showing human ship designs compared to alien vessels. Look at their warships, Admiral. Beautiful, artistic, designed to inspire awe and demonstrate the builder's technological sophistication. Now look at ours. The human ships in the display were completely different. Angular, efficient, covered with armor and weapons. Every line served a purpose related to combat effectiveness. There was no wasted space, no decorative elements, nothing that did not contribute to the ship's ability to find, fight, and destroy enemies. They build ships to impress other civilizations, Director Park continued. We build ships to kill other ships. They see warfare as an extension of diplomacy. We see it as applied physics. Admiral Tejo nodded grimly. And they're about to discover the difference. But the most revealing intelligence came from communications intercepts of alien military planning sessions. Human linguists and cryptographers had broken the encryption on Veltar command channels, providing a complete picture of their strategic thinking. Intelligence Officer Commander Wan Bin presented the analysis to the naval staff during an emergency briefing. The Veltar fleet commanders are planning their attack based on traditional galactic warfare doctrine. They expect to engage our forces in formation combat at long range, using superior numbers to overwhelm our defensive positions. Traditional doctrine? Admiral Tejo asked. Yes, sir. Galactic military tradition apparently emphasizes formal engagement patterns, predetermined formations, and weapons designed to disable rather than destroy enemy vessels. The goal is typically to force surrender rather than complete annihilation. Fleet. Captain Jae-hyun looked up from his tactical display. They're planning to fight a war of maneuvers and intimidation. Exactly. They expect us to recognize their superior numbers and technology, then negotiate a surrender that preserves our honor while acknowledging their dominance. Admiral Tejo's expression remained neutral, but his staff could see the cold calculation in his eyes. They're about to learn that humans don't fight wars of maneuvers, we fight wars of annihilation. The intelligence reports also revealed something that would have terrified the galaxy if they had known. Humanity had been preparing for this confrontation for decades. While alien powers had viewed first contact as an opportunity for trade and cultural exchange, humans had immediately begun planning for the inevitable military conflict. In the depths of the Luna naval yards, Chief Engineer Mi Young walked through construction bays that had been working around the clock since the Kepler 442 demonstration. New ship classes rolled off the production lines at a rate that would have been impossible for any known civilization. "Admiral," she reported during her daily briefing with Fleet Command, "the new Devastator-class battleships will be ready for deployment in 72 hours. The Annihilator-class heavy cruisers completed their trials yesterday. The destroyer squadrons are fully operational and awaiting orders." Admiral Tejo reviewed the production reports with satisfaction. While the aliens had spent months debating the implications of human military capability, humanity had been building the largest war machine in galactic history. What about the experimental systems? Chief Engineer Mi Young smiled with the pride of an engineer whose designs had exceeded all expectations. "The new gravitational lance weapons are ready for field testing. The quantum torpedo systems have completed successful trials. The reality disruption charges are..." She paused, considering her words carefully. "Let's just say that if we use them, there won't be enough left of the target to analyze." But perhaps the most important revelation came from human psychological analysis of alien military doctrine. Dr. Yu Na, the same scientist who had accompanied Ambassador Haye Jin to the Galactic Council, had spent months studying intercepted alien communications and behavioral patterns. Her report to the Defense Council was both fascinating and terrifying in its implications. "The fundamental difference between human and alien military thinking," she explained to the assembled leaders, "is that they still view warfare as an extension of social competition, like animals fighting for domi." The Battle of Kepler 438 began at exactly 0600 Terran Standard Time, when long-range sensors detected the massive Veltar armada dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the star system. 537 crystalline warships spread across millions of kilometers, their hulls catching the light of the system's twin suns and throwing rainbow patterns across space. Fleet Admiral Veltharan stood on the bridge of the Eternal Glory and surveyed his magnificent fleet with satisfaction. This was the largest military force ever assembled by the Veltar hegemony, and possibly the most powerful fleet in galactic history. Each ship was a masterpiece of engineering and artistry, crewed by the finest officers in the Empire. "Sensor report," he commanded. Tactical Officer Velnara manipulated her crystal controls with practiced precision. "Admiral, we detect 67 human vessels arranged in defensive positions throughout the inner system. Their formations appear unusual." "Unusual how?" "They are not maintaining traditional battle lines, Admiral. Their ships are scattered across multiple orbital planes, in what appears to be random positioning. Several vessels are using the system's asteroids and moons as cover." Fleet Admiral Veltharan's crystal features showed confusion. Every civilized species fought space battles according to established protocols. Fleets arranged themselves in formal patterns that demonstrated their technological prowess and tactical sophistication. The humans appeared to be hiding behind rocks like primitive ambush predators. "Communications. Open a channel to the human fleet commander. We will offer them one final opportunity to surrender before we demonstrate the consequences of challenging the Veltar Empire." The response came not from the human fleet commander, but from a familiar voice that made Veltharan's crystal skin crawl with remembered humiliation. "Admiral Veltharan, this is Captain So Young of the TCS Indomitable. You are trespassing in Terran Confederation space with hostile intent. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." The same human who had destroyed the Crystal Throne now dared to threaten an armada that outnumbered her forces 8-1. Veltharan's laughter rang through his ship's crystal corridors. "Captain So Young, your destruction of our flagship was an impressive display of advanced weaponry. However, you now face the combined might of the Veltar Grand Armada. Surely even primitives can count. You are outnumbered more than 8-1. So Young's reply was cold and professional. "Admiral, you're about to learn why numbers mean nothing if you don't understand your enemy." Throughout human space, millions of people watched the tactical displays as the two fleets maneuvered toward engagement range. In homes, offices, schools, and military bases, Humans followed the approaching battle with the intense focus of a species that understood this was more than just a military confrontation. This was humanity's final examination by the galaxy. Counter. Earth, in the deep bunkers of Terran Strategic Command, Admiral Tejo monitored the battle preparations with his senior staff. The holographic displays showed both fleets in real time, updated by quantum communication relays positioned throughout the system. "Sir," reported Intelligence Director Park Yun-seo, "all human units are in position and ready to execute the planned operation. Captain So-young's battle group is prepared to initiate Phase 1. Admiral Tejo nodded without taking his eyes off the tactical display. The Veltar fleet was beautiful in its formal precision, moving in perfect geometric patterns that had been refined over thousands of years. The human fleet looked chaotic by comparison, with ships positioned seemingly at random throughout the system. But Admiral Tejo saw the pattern that the aliens missed. Every human ship was positioned to create overlapping fields of fire that would channel the enemy fleet into a carefully prepared killing zone. What looked like random defensive positioning was actually the most sophisticated trap in military history. Signal all units. Execute Operation Predator's Moon. The first phase of the battle began when Destroyer Squadron 7, led by Captain Jae-hyun, emerged from behind the system's largest asteroid and launched a coordinated missile strike against the leading edge of the Veltar formation. 48 gravitational torpedoes, each one capable of warping spacetime around their targets, streaked across the void toward the advancing alien fleet. The Veltar point defense systems engaged immediately, filling space with defensive energy beams designed to intercept incoming projectiles. The torpedoes punched through the defensive fire like it wasn't there. 12 Veltar ships simply ceased to exist as localized gravitational fields, crushed their crystalline hulls down to neutron star density. "Impossible," Fleet Admiral Veltharan whispered as he watched his tactical display. "Our point defense systems have never failed." Before he could process this new information, the second phase of the human attack began. Heavy Cruiser Squadron 3, under the command of Captain Boram, emerged from the shadow of the system's inner moon and opened fire with their main batteries. Plasma cannons that burned hotter than stellar cores lanced across space, followed by railgun rounds moving at significant fractions of light speed. The Veltar formation, still reeling from the torpedo attack, took the full force of the assault on their exposed flank. 18 more alien ships died in the first 30 seconds of direct engagement. Fleet Admiral Veltharan finally understood that he was not fighting a traditional space battle. The humans were not trying to demonstrate their tactical superiority or force a surrender through overwhelming firepower. They were hunting his fleet like pack predators bringing down prey. "All ships, emergency dispersal pattern 7, he commanded. "Break formation and engage independently. Do not allow the enemy to predict our movements." But the human trap was already closing. As the Veltar fleet broke their beautiful formations and scattered across the system, they flew directly into the overlapping fire zones that human tacticians had spent months calculating. Battleship Squadron 1, anchored by the Indomitable itself, emerged from behind the system's gas giant and opened fire on the dispersing alien fleet. Captain So-young's voice carried across the human communication channels with the calm authority of someone who had expected this exact scenario. "All ships, concentrate fire on the enemy command vessels. Take out their coordination first. Then, systematically eliminate the remaining units." What followed was not a battle in any traditional sense. It was an execution, carried out with the brutal efficiency that only comes from millions of years of evolutionary training in applied violence. The human ships moved like wolves around a herd of prey, using their superior mobility and coordination to isolate groups of enemy vessels and destroy them before they could coordinate an effective response. Every human captain knew their role in the larger plan, and every human crew executed their assigned tasks with mechanical precision. By contrast, the Veltar fleet, beautiful and sophisticated though it was, had been designed for formal engagement against civilized opponents who fought according to established rules. Their commanders had no experience with enemies who treated warfare as a problem to be solved, rather than a ritual to be performed. 30 minutes after the battle began, over 100 Veltar ships had been destroyed. The human fleet had suffered exactly 0 casualties. Fleet Admiral Veltharan, aboard the heavily damaged Eternal Glory, finally understood the true nature of his enemy. These were not civilized beings engaged in a dispute over territory or resources. These were predators who had built their entire civilization around the efficient application of lethal force. Communications, he called out over the sound of alarms and damage reports. Send a priority message to all Veltar vessels. Full retreat. Abandon the offensive and withdraw to minimum safe distance. But Captain So Young had been monitoring enemy communications since the battle began. Her voice cut across the Veltar command frequency with digital clarity. Admiral Veltharan, you came here to demonstrate the consequences of challenging your empire. Now you'll learn the consequences of threatening human survival. The Indomitable, leading a formation of 6 heavy battleships, moved to intercept the retreating Veltar command group. The engagement that followed lasted exactly 17 minutes and resulted in the complete destruction of the Eternal Glory and her escort vessels. Fleet Admiral Veltharan's last transmission was intercepted by monitoring stations throughout the galaxy. How is this possible? We outnumbered them 8-1. We have technology that bends the laws of physics. How can crude metal ships defeat the finest fleet in galactic history? The answer came from Captain Subin of the TCS Retribution as her ship systematically dismantled the Veltar Superdreadnought Infinite Majesty. Her voice was broadcast on open channels so that every surviving alien could hear her words. You fight like you're still exploring the cosmos, marveling at its beauty and complexity. We fight like we're trying to survive in a universe that wants to kill us. You build ships to impress your enemies. We build ships to destroy our enemies. You see warfare as a form of artistic expression. We see it as applied engineering. As the battle entered its final phase, the surviving Veltar forces, less than 80 ships from the original 537, attempted to retreat to hyperspace. But Admiral Teho, monitoring the engagement from his command center on Earth, made a decision that,